and thank you for tuning into BrandPlus TV. It's always a delight knowing that you've taken your time and are keeping us company. My name is Ondiro Ganga, ready to bring you up to speed with all the top stories making headlines today. And as you know, we're all about business. Here's a glance of those stories.
To allocate and disperse 10% of national budgets to agriculture sector.
Kenya Small Scale Farmers Federation demands we want nothing less than 10%, say small scale farmers. East Africa Utilities Expo 2018, checking the scorecard in matters utility. Medic East Africa. Healthcare stakeholders convened to discuss pertinent issues in the industry. Cereal Millers Association, global cereal players headed for Nairobi in October. Africa Agri-Finance Forum, finding new ways of powering the backbone of the economy. Thank you for staying with us. Now on to our top story. The Kenya Small Scale Farmers Forum today held a press conference to launch a 1 million signature drive across the East African region. This is in a bid to push the East African governments to allocate and disburse 10% of their national budget allocation to small-scale farming. The forum says small-scale farming is one of the fastest ways to foster economic growth in the region. Take a look at that story. The Kenya Small Scale Farmers Forum for the next 45 days will be carrying out a campaign and a petition for a prosperous, poverty-free East African community. According to Alfayo Kuruna, the chairman Kenya Small Scale Farmers Forum, this, however, will only be possible if there is enough fund allocation to the sector as mandated by the Malabo Declaration, which commits the AU and the EAC to set aside at least 6% of their annual budgets for annual agricultural growth.
A statement from small-scale farmers demand to the East African community states to make a legal requirement to allocate and disperse 10% of national budgets to agriculture sector. For the benefit of 130 million small-scale farmers, crop growers, pastoralists, fisherfolk, and forestry, we, Kenya Small-Scale Farmers Forum, and other non-state actors demand that East African community states to make it mandatory and legal requirement as from 2019-2020 budgets to allocate 10% of national budgets to agriculture sector.
He went on to highlight the numerous benefits the East African nations are set to accrue due to this investment, key among them being both the local and global set development goals.
Small-scale farmers, mostly women, comprise the majority population and feed the world and Africa inclusive. Agriculture has the potential to uplift poor people out of poverty 11 more times than other sectors like oil and gas in Africa. Agriculture is #1 employer in East African region and among the biggest contributor to the GDPs. Also, agriculture, I think, is a tradition as we were born to farm. Agriculture is the main source of raw materials for industrialization drive in the region. And lastly, investment in agriculture is a cornerstone to achieve UN Sustainable Development Goals 2030, African Agenda 2063, the Kenyan Big Four Agenda, that is ensuring food security, affordable housing, manufacturing, and affordable health care.
Among the key natural resources that Africa has is fertile land. The continent is yet to fully realize the benefits that it can reap by fully exploiting the potential of the land. Alfayo went on to add that if small-scale farming is treated with the seriousness it deserves, the economy of the region is bound to change for the better.
As a result, this will end hunger and malnourishment among citizenry, especially children. It will also reduce poverty by half, will increase trade, and enhance resilience due to climate variabilities.
Agriculture in Kenya is land dependent. With land being solely owned by people above 60 years, the young people are finding it difficult to make an entry in the sector. With the Kenyan population majorly consisting of the youth, Justice Lavi, a board member from Makueni, says it is time we introduce the youth to innovative agriculture.
There are other techniques of agriculture that do not require land. There are technologies like hydroponics. We have very many. Greenhouse, we don't require land, we don't require big land. So we are trying as an organization to look at how youth can be attracted to agriculture. And with that generation of 60 and above, they do not farm as agribusiness. They farm as a livelihood for their families. But the youth who want to do it as agribusiness, so we are looking at methodologies and techniques that youth can farm and make income. We want to have income-generating activities in agriculture.
In East Africa, the Malabo Biannual Report 2017, released in January 2018, shows that Rwanda had the highest overall agricultural transformation score in the continent of 6.1 against a total of 10 points. Kenya scored 4.8 points, followed by Burundi, who scored 4.7, Uganda 4.4, Tanzania 3.1, while South Sudan did not submit their report. It is evident the winds of transformation are blowing hard and fast in the country. We only hope that the powers that be will heed to the call and equip the small-scale holders farmers, and with it reap the benefits of not only increased employment but also food security. The East Africa Utilities Expo 2018 is an international gathering that is designed to provide a platform for professionals, companies and stakeholders to showcase and explore their latest advancements in the utilities sector, as well as showcasing the opportunities they can explore in the fast-growing East African market. Our reporter Daisy Ombo attended the event and has more details on the story.
The three-day networking platform will explore thematic areas around power, water and waste management. The conference is meant to offer valuable learning opportunities to both the seasoned professionals and newcomers to the field, as it will greatly emphasize putting ideas into action moving forward. Speaking while officially opening the conference, Honorable Mohamed Almi, the Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, acknowledged waste management as a menace that the country has been struggling with for years.
We have been struggling with waste management for some time.
He further pointed out that plastics are the biggest menace, but applauded the various companies for switching to alternatives after the ban.
Plastics has been a major contributor to that waste. We banned the bags, and I can see in the exhibitions alternatives are coming in.
Ayub Masharia, the Director of Environment, Education and Awareness under the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, said that 2,500 tons of garbage are generated per day in Nairobi. The city authorities collect 40%, the private sector collecting 20%, and the remaining 40% is left uncollected, thus causing environmental and human hazards.
Of course, talking about Kenya, most garbage in Kenya and in many developing countries, it goes to illegal dump sites, which are all over the place, and only a small percentage of waste is recovered and reused or recycled. So in Kenya, we are talking of about 10% only.
Anne Theuri from the National Environment Management Authority of Kenya pointed out that waste management was a devolved function and that the counties are in charge of implementing the policies after they are passed by the national government in partnership with NEMA.
In Kenya, I know most of you know that waste management is a devolved function. This means that the management of waste is a mandate of our county governments. And these county governments are guided by the national policies which are made at the national level. So the Ministry of Environment and NEMA has that big mandate to do the policies, and then the county governments are supposed to implement and make our environment clean and free of waste.
She continued to speak on the National Solid Waste Management Strategy that was developed to guide sustainable solid waste management in an effort to attain a healthy environment.
So this strategy was developed so that it can guide, as I've said, the county governments whose mandate it is to do waste management, so that we can have a clean and healthy environment. And it is based on zero waste principle. And we're saying that waste is a resource that can be harnessed, and I've had that mentioned here today.
Waste management has several unexplored openings in the country, and Suresh Patel, the chairman of the Environmental Committee, Kenya Association of Manufacturers, outlined the various opportunities that the youth can explore as a means of job creation.
One is the waste generation minimization. At the enterprise level, at the factory level, there's opportunity to reduce the waste. One is cleaner production approach. Other is having the innovative technological solution for the quality product. Then redesigning your product at the factory level or enterprise level so that you reduce the wastage of the resources.
Despite the opportunities that waste management creates, the challenges are similarly equal, as he continued to point out in his presentation.
The transport cost is one of the biggest problems for the waste management. It's always high. Taking a waste from 20 kilometers away from the city center to a place where there's a deposit will be a problem.
Overall, the increase in municipal solid waste resulting from the country's development and increasing population, there is the need for policies, environmental regulations, effective waste management systems, and infrastructure improvements so as to fix its waste disposal problems. All there needs to be is focused attention, good governance, and the implementation of systems and policies that are on paper that ensure changes outlive each administration. For BrandPlus TV Business News, I am Daisy Wambua.
MEDIC East African Exhibition and Conference started today at the KICC in Nairobi, with more than 250 exhibiting companies displaying the latest technologies in the healthcare sector from more than 18 countries across the globe. Our reporter Elsa Atieno was at the event and filed the following report.
Kenya has a short-term development plan dubbed the Big Four Agenda, and the key among the four plans is universal health care.
You can use for any type of surgery.
Moderating the event today was Dr. Amit Thaka, Chairman, Kenya Health Federation, who said that over 85% of the population in Africa does not have hospital cover, while 50% have access to basic primary health care.
You'll be surprised that over 85% don't have access to any kind of a cover and rely on out-of-pocket expenses to get care.
He went on to add that the biggest disease in Kenya is poverty.
50% of people in Africa don't have access to basic primary health care. And one of the biggest diseases, ladies and gentlemen, that is affecting the continent right now is poverty.
Dr. Andrew Mulwa, County Executive Health Services, who also attended the event, said that one frustration he has is that Kenya has chosen to silo health information systems and wondered how, as a country, we can transition from all silos to electronic medical records.
One frustration that I personally get while delivering health in this country is how we have, as a country, chosen to silo health information systems. Everyone has their own system that they develop, and the story is at the click of a button, you'll be able to see this. It is able to have financial modules, service delivery modules. But as a country, how are we going to transition from all these silos and have an EMR, electronic medical records? Because yes, it's good to have your finances. It's good to have patient movement, service delivery points, point of service automation. But it's more important for the patient to have all that data. How do we ensure that it is not just for the facilities? Because when I go to any facility that has some form of automation, go to Aga Khan, go to Nairobi Hospital, go to Makueni County Referral Hospital, there will be some form of automation. But what does the patient live with?
While healthcare in Kenya is provided through a network of 4,700 health services, majorly in the public sector, the quality still varies widely across the country. For BrandPlus TV Business News, I am Elsa Atieno.
Kenya is expected to host the 29th Annual International Millers Conference and Expo. The event is scheduled to take place from 22nd to 25th October 2018 in Nairobi. Now, the three-day event will see more than 100 companies from 50 different countries across the continent exhibit their products. In addition, more than 600 delegates from flour millers, seed processors, trade and technological producers in the milling industry are expected to grace the upcoming event. Take a look. Food insecurity is a major threat in developing countries who are still struggling to fill their food basket. In order to curb this phenomenon, the international millers usually hold an annual conference that brings all the relevant stakeholders in the milling industry from across the world together in an effort to deliberate on how to improve food security in the world.
It's the 29th year of the conference under the auspices of the International Association of Operative Millers, Middle East and Africa District. As you said, we have about 600 delegates from over 50 countries representing the flour milling, the technical support services to our industry, seed processors and many, many exhibitors. And I think what you expect to see is some wonderful presentations and panel discussions talking about new innovations, new opportunities to improve the quality of grain storage, the quality of the flour we produce, and of course, very importantly, the cost at which we produce those flours, which net as we adopt those new technologies will be a benefit to the Kenyan consumer.
Despite President Uhuru Kenyatta signing the Finance Bill 2018 into law, the chair of Cereal Millers Association has assured the public that the effective taxes won't affect the price of flour.
After the budget, the milling industry was moved back into exempt. That means we could not claim the VATs that were going to come on us. But now, according to what we understand, with the signing off on Friday, we have been moved back to zero. So we will be able to claim back the VAT from the fuel. So it will not affect the flour prices as it stands at the moment. Maize milling, wheat milling.
He further added that the millers will incorporate new products such as millet and sorghum flour to reduce overdependence on maize flour.
As you're well aware, we don't have enough of any of them. So we need to actually increase our production in order to get there. So for the time being, I think it is important for us to create new product ranges that will actually accommodate that, because that's healthy living and healthy diets that are very critical for all of us Kenyans. I think we need to get there. It's a slow process, but it will take us another 5 years or 10 years for us to get there. But we will get there, hopefully. And those options are supposed to be there in the market anyway. As millers, I think we're all there, and we would like to throw those product ranges into the market whenever the produce are actually there. So we're actually looking forward to it.
It obviously depends on...
According to Nick Hutchinson, Director Unga Holdings Limited, there are major problems that face wheat production in the country, key among them being increased demand while harvests have stagnated, thereby forcing millers to supplement the shortage with imports.
We've discussed before, Kenya produces roughly 15 to 20% of the country's milling needs, and the rest of it is imported from different wheat-growing countries around the world. And yes, in a year like this, where we expect harvest to be lower, crop quality to be lower as well, we will supplement that import, that deficit with imports from other countries. Of course, it does also mean that we will be out there buying Kenyan wheat because there'll be less of it. There is an agreement where we have to buy Kenyan wheat, So we will be there to buy it, and we just hope that next year's crop is better. Gives me pleasure to...
We hope that the upcoming Millers Conference and Expo will create avenues for knowledge exchange in agriculture, trade and industry sectors that will eventually boost the economic development of the country. Kenya continues to play host to major global and continental conferences and forums. The Africa Agri-Finance Forum, one such event, was held for the first time in Nairobi, bringing together stakeholders with the aim of exploring opportunities that will enhance agri-finance penetration in Africa. Our reporter Karari John attended day one of the forum and brings us the following story.
Africa has huge potential in agriculture, and with it, vast investment potential exists. It is for this reason that the first annual Africa Agri-Finance Forum was held at Crown Plaza, Nairobi.
Once, twice, thrice, because fertilizer, plant material.
The forum was motivated by the overarching direction to transform product offering and undo the lack of capital investment in this sector.
The agribusinesses, for example, that are
you finance innovation.
Access to financial support has been a major challenge to farmers as they lack the know-how to convince financial institutions to fund their projects and programs.
Together we build the whole.
The executive chairman, Diligent Consulting Limited, Tanzania, Andrew Temu, stressed the importance of financial inclusion for farmers in the realization of agri-business success.
First and foremost, in all the three East African countries which probably have been addressed today, a big number of people, a good proportion of the population is involved in agriculture. And not only agriculture in terms of primary production, but we are looking at the whole of the value chain, from input supplying, primary production, agro-processing, trade, etc. So for purposes of making sure that probably development of this region is inclusive and it really impacts positively to the large numbers of the population, I think financial inclusion is very important.
Farmers continue to face challenges in the access of reasonable financing options, which will then provide working capital as well as enable them acquire productive assets.
Currently buying.
To this end, Andrew Temu pointed out that innovation in agri-finance will go a long way in bridging the gap.
I think innovation in agriculture, and particularly for purposes of finance, is important because of the challenges which we have experienced in the past. Traditional financial products, let's say probably walk-in credit into bank halls, mechanisms by which we gather and analyze information about our prospective probably borrowers, assessments of risks and abilities to repay, let's say records which are required in credit reference bureaus. All these done traditionally in mechanical, in manual ways, weren't really providing us the leverage which we needed to be able to serve this sector. So innovation within the financial services product is important, particularly because it will create an enabling environment for even traditional financial institutions to be able to serve the sector much better. So innovation, to me, is an enabler.
Agriculture, for so long, has been regarded as a practice for the poor, making farmers to only produce for personal and family sustenance. But Johannes Asefa, Director, Agriculture and Agribusiness USAID, states otherwise, noting that farmers are the biggest businessmen in the continent.
Actually, farmers are the biggest business people on the continent. They understand business better than most people think. But business has to work for them. They have to make money. They have to feed their family. Of course, they're sometimes maybe learning new methods, adopting new ways of planting, harvesting. But in general, farmers know what makes sense for them. But they require some support, could be technical or financial support for farmers to produce more and be able to be profitable.
affordable system to support them.
When financial support is granted to farmers across Africa, while supported by relevant entrepreneurial skills, they will in turn start treating agriculture as a profitable and sustainable business and not to cap the potential that it presents. Reporting for BrandPlus TV, I am Kara John, Wambugu.
Example.
Now let's get technical and take a look at the day's market performances, and here is a summary. That is how the markets performed today, but for more in-depth analysis of the same, tune in tomorrow at 8 a.m. for my next big bet with Brechan Deritu and Karanja Daniel. Now let's take a look at the weather report, both local and international. Well, that's all the time we had tonight for you on the Business News Desk. On behalf of everyone that made it a success, thank you very much for watching. You can catch a rerun of this bulletin at 10 p.m. From the rest of the crew, it's good night. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.